Hi, I'm Mike Steven, and this is Gear Up. Today we're going to talk about tubeless. Why you might want to do it, why you might not want to do it first is what we're going to talk about. So why you might want to do it, you can run a lot lower air pressure in your tires. That allows you to corner better, climb better, do almost everything on the bicycle better. The bike will handle better. Tubeless fluid can actually seal a small hole. Tire plugs can seal a slightly bigger hole without having to take your wheel off and change, so a little bit faster for flats on the trail if you get a flat. The only negative to tubeless is that I recommend that you adjust your tire pressure every single time you ride the bicycle. Even if it's back-to-back, Sunday, Monday, whatever. I recommend that you adjust the PSI in your tires simply because a tubeless system does let air out a little bit faster than a tube. You know, the way a tube will let out, if you leave your bike, you've got your tires pumped up, you leave your bike over the winter in the shop and your tires are flat. Well, you don't need new tubes, you just need to pump up your tires. Tubeless does it a lot faster than that. But that, I would say, is the only negative or drawback or reason you might not want to do it, is if you're like the person that says, no way, I'm not going to pump up my tires each time I ride. It's really important, in my opinion, if you're riding aggressively, to know your tire pressures, know what you should be running. Like myself, I ride probably in around 28 PSI in the back, and I'll ride 25, 26 in the front. So if that tire pressure is always consistent, you're going to have very consistent rides. It's one less thing that's changing in the mountain bike environment, and it'll just allow you to navigate the trails a little bit quicker possibly. So let's first go over what you might need. So first you're going to be taking out a tube. So you're going to take out a tube. Your valve stem is the part that we're going to replace. So a tubeless valve stem basically just looks like this, a valve stem without a tube attached to it. The other thing that you're going to need is rim tape. So some rims come previously taped with a watertight rim tape. If they're not done, you need to put some rim tape on it. There's either straps like this or like rim tape like this, or there's actual tape that you can tape on. Both work just fine. The one thing I'll say about doing this part of it, make sure you do a good job of sealing off all the spoke holes in the rim. The next thing you're going to need is some fluid. Most people aren't just running air. You can, believe it or not, on some systems run just air, but most people are running a little bit of fluid so that if you get a little hole, it just automatically plugs it. You won't even know that you've gotten a flat until you change out your fluid and you see these little silicone goblins inside of your tire when you refresh your tire. Aside from that, it's just the same things that you'd use for a regular tube change. Some tire levers, a pump, that kind of thing. Basically, what I'm going to do is we're just going to go through a tubeless exchange and I'll show you how it's done. So first you're going to take your rim. This rim already has rim tape on it, so it's taped ready to go. So you take your valve stem, find your valve hole, put it through. Then there's various types of valves. You can even get fancy ones like these guys, like pink, and match it into the kit on your bike, because that definitely makes you faster. So as I thread this on, the one thing that you want to do is you want to press from the top here and be threading at the same time. You need a good seal here. If you don't have a good seal between the valve stem and the rim, you're going to get some air leakage. Okay, that should be tight enough. So the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to simply take your tire and install it the way you regularly would. So check for your drive direction, so which way the tire is spinning, and then put it on the rim. So a recommendation for you is if you put the logo always at the valve stem, it will make your tube changes a little bit faster because you won't have to look for the valve. You can just look for the logo because it's much bigger. So There we go. So again, line that valve stem up with the logo. It shifted on me a little bit there. There we go. And then you actually mount the other side. You can add fluid at this point, but I find it kind of messy. So what I like to do is I start at the valve stem, put the other side of the tire on. And if you need to use a set of tire levers just for the last bit, that's fairly common. The one thing to be careful of is that when you're using a tire lever with tubeless, no, you can't pinch the tube, but if you push the tire lever in too deep and pry too far, you can actually puncture the rim tape. That is going to cause air leakage. So the next thing you're going to want to do is get your valve core remover. So you're going to go to your valve core, you're going to pull it out. And once your valve core is pulled out, then you can put some fluid in. Most fluids that are out there, you can get them in different sizes. You can get them in like big shop jugs like we have here. You can get them in various sizes depending on how much fluid you need. This is probably a good time to remind you that about 3-month intervals is when you want to refresh the fluid in the tube or in the tire. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your solution and you're going to give it a shake. Because there's different size particulate in the solution, you want to give it a bit of a shake so that everything mixes up, and then quite quickly thereafter fill up what you're going to be injecting with. This stuff can be messy, and doing it this way is a little bit messier than using an actual injector. This is an injector. I just prefer this way and have gotten used to this way. But a lot of people will use injectors if they want to keep it neat and tidy. So with this type of system, all I need to do is thread the bottle into the top of the stem a little bit, and then I'm going to squish the 2 ounces of fluid in. When I'm doing a brand new tire, I like to put in 4 ounces. I think 4 ounces is almost a universal. It'll do pretty much any wheel 4 ounces. Whereas if you've got somebody really concerned about weight for cross country or something like that, you might want to put in only 2 ounces or put in what they instruct. But for your average everyday Joe that doesn't care about an extra ounce or 2 of fluid, it definitely makes sure that the inside of the tire gets coated, because there might be micro porous holes inside of the tire. I've got my tubeless fluid filled up now. I'm just going to move this so you can get a little bit better look at the valve stem, because it's down low there. So there's your valve stem without the core in it. Take this guy, thread it, and then squish it in. So at this point, we have 4 ounces of fluid inside of this tire. And this is a 29er, and it's a 2.6. So I would not go any less. If you've got a 26-inch tire and you're way down at like 1.9, you can definitely run less fluid. But most 29ers with any width at all, I would recommend running the 4 ounces. Again, your tool, I've threaded it, the valve core in by hand, and then you just finish it off with a little tightening of the tool. And it just needs to be snug. You don't have to go crazy here. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add air. For this step of the procedure, you pretty much need a compressor. Sometimes you can get it with a floor pump if it's a high volume floor pump, but for the most part, you're going to want to fill this up with a compressor. So I'm just going to run and fill this tire up. I'll be right back with you. Okay, now that I've filled up the tire with air, I've thrown 30 psi in here. The few things that you want to make sure of is that your bead is seated completely around. There's a little line, and you want to make sure you can see the line all the way around. The other thing is, if you have some air leakage happening, it could be because the valve core isn't quite tight enough, or sorry, the valve core here. It could be that your ring nut here isn't threaded hard enough to pull the valve stem and make a good contact. So check that for tightness. Sometimes you may need to train the tire, meaning put a tube in it first if it's a brand new tire. Put a tube in it first, leave it overnight, and then install your tubeless stuff so the tire's trained to the shape of the rim. But at this point in time, we've got a fully tubeless wheel that you can run those lower air pressures in. I'm going to show you a couple things that are kind of neat. So first off, all those little holes that I talked about. So it's quite common to run over, say, like a nail or something like that. I'm going to pierce this, and then you're going to watch it seal itself. So you can hear it hissing there. I'm going to flip it down to where the tubeless sealant is. No hissing. So again, even if you get one in the sidewall, that's a good one. Flip it over. Get the sealant into place. Oh, there it is. See it shoot out. And sealed. So, let's pretend that this didn't seal. If this didn't seal, what you could do is you could take bacon strips or tire plugs, and you're going to need another tool. But what you do is you take one of these strips of, it's basically rubber compound. So you take one of these strips, you put it onto a tool that's designed to push into the tire and leave the plug. So I'm just going to kind of clear this way so I can see where the hole went in. There's the hole right there. I'm going to put the tube plug in. I'm going to make sure that there's some excess sticking out. I don't know if you can see that well. There's excess sticking out. Now I'm going to hold the excess and pull out. So that is a tire plug. So most people would want to trim that off to about 2 mils hanging out of the tire there. But if you do get a puncture that's bigger than just, well, you see the diameter of the thing that I shoved through it. So if it's bigger than that kind of hole, you're probably going to need to use a plug, and that's the easy way to use a plug. Basically, at that point, you're ready to ride, and I think you can see the benefits of it. Those pinch flats become no more because you don't have a tube to pinch. Small punctures become no more because they'll fill before you even know that they've happened. The bigger ones, you might have to stop on the trail and position the fluid, get the fluid into the space where the air is coming out. But short of that, you should have a fairly flatless summer if you switch over to tubeless. So not only is it more convenient that way, but you've also got the added performance of better cornering, better climbing. It's a better system. Well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time, and have fun out there on the trails. Hi, I'm Mike Stephen, and this is Gear Up. Today we're going to talk about spring and fall. Spring and fall, a lot of people stop running or cycling or doing the stuff they like to do outside because of the weather. The honest to goodness truth is, if you want to still be out there, you can dress properly and still be warm and comfortable out in the cooler temperatures. What I'm going to be explaining is a fair bit to do with cycling, but you know what? Running and other outdoor activities, you can use the exact same principles as I'm showing you here today. So first off, you do not want to wear for your base layer, and I'll explain what base layer is. Base layer is the layer that's right next to your skin. So for the base layer, you do not want to use cotton or like linen or anything like that. You actually want to use things like polypropylene, which is a synthetic wicking material, or my personal favorite is merino wool. The reason why I like wool better than synthetics is it's much more natural. It's better for your body. The next up is you're going to have, when you do sweat in a merino wool garment, wool has an interesting characteristic of not losing its insulation value when it's wet. So if you are out there sweating and working hard, merino wool, when it gets wet, as long as you cover it up with a windbreaker or something like that, it's going to maintain its insulation value, whereas synthetics will not do that. So it's really important for you to have something next to your skin that's going to pull the water off of your skin and bring it out to the garment and out into the atmosphere. Because it's just like when you get out of the shower. When you first jump out of the shower, you're a little bit cold. And then as soon as you dry off, it seems to warm up. Well, it hasn't warmed up. What's happened is your skin is dry. Therefore, you don't feel as cold. Liquid on your skin makes you cool off faster. So we've got a base layer. There's all sorts of things that you can use for a mid layer. So say it is really cold, the snow is starting to come down and stuff like that. You can use all sorts of stuff for mid layers. Mid layers can be, it can be merino wool again, just a thicker garment like a sweater or a hoodie. You can use down. Down is fantastic, super warm. It's got lots of loft to create dead air space. It's going to be super warm. Believe it or not, you can even use some of the basic stuff like cottons and stuff like that. I tend to shy away from them if you are putting out lots of sweat because, yeah, you're getting the sweat off your skin if you have merino next to your skin, but then you're just putting it one layer out, so the wetness is still kind of heavy on your body and doesn't feel quite as nice. Whereas if you use a whole system of stuff, you're going to actually transport the moisture. Even if you're wearing a shell, you can transport the moisture from base layer to mid layer all the way out of the garment. So if you want to do that, what you need to use things like merino wool or polypropylene for your base layer and your mid layer. I'm going to explain a little bit about, there's kind of two different things. There's garments that are water resistant, and then there's garments that are waterproof. And believe it or not, even if you had all the money in the world to buy the highest end waterproof stuff, a water-resistant garment is actually a better choice if you're sweating a lot. Simply because, yes, they breathe, and Gore-Tex, XCR, or some of these companies that are claiming to have very, very, very fast breathability rates, don't breathe as fast as a water-resistant garment. So if you are working out often and you are sweating a lot, it's a good idea to have a windbreaker. So what it does is it stops the wind from penetrating and cooling you, but it allows the moisture from inside to get out so that you can stay warm. So believe it or not, a water-resistant jacket, for me, if I'm cycling and it all depends on what you're doing. If you're touring, you might want waterproof because you're putting out less energy and you're probably not sweating as hard and you're going out there for the day. Whereas if you're going out for a 3-hour ride where you're going to hammer hard, you're going to sweat lots, you're going to climb lots of elevation, it's really important to have something that breathes. So a lot of times the garments don't look much different, but this is like a waterproof garment. So this will stop all water from going in, but it really restricts the water from going out as well. Something like this does breathe better than plastic or something like that. And the high-end Gore-Texes breathe better for sure, but you're still not going to get quite as much breathability. But if it is a downpour and you're actually getting cold from the weather, something waterproof is definitely the ticket. So next I'm going to explain we talked about the top half of your body. A lot of people forget about the bottom half of their body. And for example, we sell lots of cycling shorts in the shop. whereas we don't sell as many cycling pants. But pants are amazing for spring and fall because it's made out of the same kind of cycling material, something with lots of stretch and give, something that if you crash on it, it'll stand up better than standard clothing for sure because it's got that give, because it's got a higher denier of cordura in it. But if you wear something that kind of keeps your joints warm, you're going to be more comfortable out there. And the reason why I specifically say joints is because it's like elbows, knees, wrists. If you keep those areas warm, not too many people go, oh man, the back of my calf is really cold. It's the joints that start to cause problems when you're out there. They ache, they feel uncomfortable. So if you can keep your joints warm, and as long as you're staying active, your body should stay warm as long as you're following some of these principles. Some other things that people might not know about is this is a buff, and I don't know if you can see it up close, but they've got a merino sheep wearing the buff, but you can wear it as a neck tube, you can wear it up over your nose, you can also wear it like a toque. So something like this just to have in your pack or your camelback is a really good idea because most of your heat is lost through your head. So if you've got that super ventilated summer helmet on and you just need to trap a little bit more heat, throwing on a buff underneath it or putting one in your jacket to seal that up is going to go a long way to making you warm. Another little secret, in the fall, in the late fall, if it's a really miserable day, I'll actually use my ski helmet. Ski helmets have much more insulation because they're designed for winter, so does the same thing, still protects your head. So I tend to switch over into my ski helmet as I move into fat biking and move into the colder part of the season. Some other things that can really help you out, say you've got lots of shorts, but you don't have any long pants. There's arm warmers and leg warmers. They look the same kind of on the hanger, but your arm warmer is going to cover from wrist to right above there on your shoulder, so that if you're wearing a shirt or something, that short sleeve shirt, it turns it into a long sleeve shirt. The big benefit of arm warmers and leg warmers are that you can just, as you're cycling, roll them down and they can just hang around your wrist if it warms up. You don't have to stop right away to take the garment off. You can just roll it down around your wrist, and you can either take it from there and throw it in your jersey pocket as you're riding, or you can stop and take it off. Either way, you can be comfortable if the temperature does warm up. So again, leg warmers come to up above where your shorts are. They have good little elastic grippy guys to make sure that they stay up, and they're just going to cover up your legs and arms with a layer of fabric, and that makes a huge difference in terms of warmth. A common complaint, especially amongst road riders in spring and fall, is cold feet. Because you've got these shoes that are built for the summertime and they're super breathable and they got lots of airflow in them. Well, in the cold temperatures, even if you wear wool socks, sometimes it's not warm enough inside the shoe. So the cycling community has come up with these little guys called booties. And the booties just go directly over top of your shoe. They have an opening in the bottom so your cleat can still interface with your pedal. If you're, most people that are running this will run clipless. And they just kind of go on over top of your shoe and create a waterproof, windproof barrier with a little bit of fleece on the inside to add to that warmth. So booties make a night and day difference of having cold feet or not having cold feet. They will change your riding experience, especially, like I say, on road biking. Mountain biking, you're not going quite as fast all the time, so your feet have a chance to warm up here and there. But you can even try these for snow biking over top of your regular summer shoes versus purchasing a whole different set of footwear. And there's also an option if you just want to cover the toes, because really, again, it's probably not the rest of your foot that's getting cold, it's your toes, chances are. So this is just a little sock that goes over your toes and makes you a little bit more comfortable. So realistically, what I'm saying is that if you employ some of these things and keep yourself as dry as possible, meaning either from the sweat of your body or from the elements outside, if you try to keep as dry as possible, you will be a lot more comfortable. Obviously, if you're doing high output stuff, it's a little bit harder to stay dry. But if you wear fabrics that work well with moisture, like merino wool, you're going to find that you're going to be much more comfortable out there. Another thing is long-fingered cycling gloves. A lot of people buy short-fingered. I pretty much only buy long-fingered now, just because they're not that much hotter in the summer. I never have hot fingertips. But come wintertime and fall, these things are great for hiking, biking, even if you're running. They're a nice, thin, well-fit glove. So don't use them just for cycling. Use them for the other stuff too. I use them touring in the winter or snowshoeing, stuff like that. Bike gloves are a fantastic, full-fingered bike glove is another fantastic way to keep the weather off of you. Most of them are water resistant, not waterproof, until you get into the hardcore winter ones. But hopefully I've given you some ideas to keep you warm and comfortable and extend your biking season or your running season or whatever it happens to be. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Stephen, and this has been Gear Up.